There he is. He had a long night with the thunderstorms. What's up, Danny? What's up, Danny? What's up, Danny? A rainy day and a taboo subject. I like it. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Bill. This is Pirate Solutions Forestry, and it's kind of a crappy day. Poured rain last night, mill yard's muddy. Danny doesn't like to really go out and get soaked. So I'm going to do a video on a very taboo subject, very, very misunderstood subject. And I would say in all of forestry, it's the most lied about thing on the face of the planet. And that is pine versus hardwoods for firewood. And when I say pine, I'm going to include SPFs, pine, spruce, and fir. Well, let's start with a little backstory here. In the Northeast where I am, and even in the Midwest, the upper East Coast, we were always taught that you can't burn pine in your fireplace or in your wood stove or you'll burn your house down. Pretty much that simple. It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. So what we burn in the Northeast and Pennsylvania, New York, into the Midwest, the upper Midwest, is boutique hardwoods. Those boutique hardwoods include your oaks, cherry, maple, Osage orange, locust, elm, things like that. Those hardwoods are the hardwoods of choice for burning because you have no other choice. And what's happened with those hardwoods is that industry has gone from, let's just say, $100 a cord to $1,000 a cord. In my area, the Northeast, seasoned hardwood cords right now are $1,000 a cord. Before I met Kate, my previous partner, we burned 6 to 8 cords a year in the house, mainly oak, and we were paying about $260 a cord. And this was 10 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. Now it's $1,000. And I'm going to take you through what I burn in our house to heat our house for the entire winter, and what it's done to my chimney, on my wood stove chimney, and what are the lies that go along with this entire farce. To answer your question quickly, before we shift over into another view or something else, number one, absolutely you can burn pine, spruce, and fir in your wood stove or in your house for firewood. It's almost an infantile question. It's so infantile, it's actually insulting. Anyone that tells you you can't, you should shame them. That's how completely untrue this subject is. My answer to everyone, and I just ran into this at the logging show with a lady who writes a Northeast logging magazine. She came to the Norwood booth, and we were just chewing the fat in the morning really early before anyone showed up. And she lost her husband. Now she's living in a cabin up in Maine, and she's burning wood. And we got into the conversation of firewood, and it went just down the road. And it's when I tell somebody that they can burn softwoods, conifers, I'm always met with the same skepticism. They look at you like you have two heads Well, no, my grandfather told me, or, I was always taught, I always hear the same catchphrases. And I always answer them the same way. Well, what do you think they burn in Canada where they don't have any hardwood? Well, what do you think they burn in the Pacific Northwest where they don't have any hardwood? All they burn there is pine, spruce, and fir. That's it. Nothing else. They don't have anything else to burn. And these are places that they don't heat for ambiance like a lot of people do in the Northeast. In the Northeast where I live, people heat for ambiance. They buy those $1,000 cords and probably burn 2 a year, and it's more like, oh, it's a chilly night around Christmas and let's start a fire in the fireplace. Versus somebody like me who actually burns for heat. I didn't use oil last year. I didn't use oil the year before. And I look at that as a good thing because for me, servicing my firewood is around a $6,000 a year job for me. So when I have nothing else going on, like right now, and I'm cutting firewood, I'm earning money in oil I don't have to burn in the wintertime. And the conversation always goes the same way. The first thing they say is, well, I never thought about that. And then I'll add on, what do you think they burn in the Scandinavian countries or in Siberia or Russia, places where they don't have the hardwoods that we burn here in the Northeast? All they burn is conifers. And they're not burning their houses down, and they actually rely on burning to live through the bad winters. We don't even have crazy bad winters here. Now, some places, your Wisconsin's and your upper peninsula of Michigan, some places in Pennsylvania, out into the Dakotas, you have some pretty harsh winters, especially around Yellowstone, things like that. What do you think people burn around Yellowstone, where all they have is conifers? All they're burning is pine, spruce, and fir to keep themselves alive. 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 feet of snow in the upper elevations, that's all they have to burn. And if they can't burn, they can't live there. It's not the same as burning for ambiance in your house in the Northeast. Now, the conversation then usually, a light comes on in the people's heads and they say something like this publisher did, well, I never really thought about it that way. And then the conversation shifts. The conversation shifts over to research that I did years ago on this exact topic. And the University of Georgia did a great study on this. And I'm going to ask all of you, the best thing that anyone can say to somebody when they're trying to tell them something that is going to blow their mind and they're not going to believe is to research it yourself. I think Aaron Lewis says it the best in some of his country songs where he goes off on his drunken political rants and he'll bring up a couple of subjects and say this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, these people were responsible, blah, 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 blah. Don't believe me. Research it yourself. Don't believe a word I say. Absolutely dismiss everything that I say and research it yourself. Well, the University of Georgia study on burning pine against oak is a great place to start, because what you're going to find in that study, and they burned oak against pine, both seasoned and unseasoned. They burned it. They measured the deposits of creosote from the burn, X amount of, let's just use numbers because I can't remember them, but let's just say a cord against a cord. They burned a whole cord of seasoned oak against a whole cord of seasoned pine. And then they measured the creosote buildup in the chimney. Pine creates less creosote than oak does. Then they did it unseasoned, and pine creates less creosote buildup than oak does wet. Now, the problem with oak is that you've also been lied to about that. And it's another very taboo subject. Actually, if you watch Mike Morgan at Outdoors with the Morgans, Mike Morgan's about as honest a firewood guy as you're going to see. He tells you straight up, oak takes 2 years to season correctly outside. If you're burning it with less than 2 years seasoned on it, you're burning it pretty wet. It takes 2 years for red oak to season down to the level that you should burn in your wood heating. Now, I'm not talking about an outdoor boiler. That's a completely different story. Although you're still going to get creosote buildup in those, but people just throw whole logs in those, and those logs are never dry. Firewood guys here in the Northeast will sell oak as seasoned with 6 months on it, split, over and over and over again for $1,000 a cord. That's nowhere near dry enough to burn in your wood stove. I will put it this way, and I agree with Mike Morgan 150% on this. And the best test is, can you light a fire in your stove without kindling with some sort of, let's just say like I do, where you put some paper in there. I use pine as kindling, but I'm going to take the pine out of the equation for a second. You put some oak in your fireplace and you put some paper under it and you light it. Will that light on fire? Now, if that won't light on fire, that wood's not dry. In Mike Morgan's case, he has that cool little fire starter, and you only need a little handful, and he puts it under his dry oak, just a little dinky handful, and he lights it up, and the whole thing goes up. That's because his oak is dry. On 6 month seasoned oak, you have zero prayer of doing that. Matter of fact, even if you start your fire in some way, shape, or form with a softwood like I do, and you throw some of that oak in there, it's going to smolder. Smoldering is when you get creosote buildup. Dogging your stove down with wet wood is the way that you get dangerous creosote buildup. It's the worst thing you can do. So if you're burning unseasoned oak, and at night you load the stove up and you dog it down so it will last all night, that is when you're getting the chunks in your chimney. Pine isn't going to do that to you. All right. Now, I'm not going to argue the fact that oak creates more BTUs, is what they call it. So you can look at the charts and it talks about BTUs for different wood types. But the thing about those BTUs is they are measured over a period of time. So it's almost like heat per volume over time. There's no way somebody can convince me that when I take an armful of pine out of my kindling rack in the morning, first thing when I get up, and I put it in the stove with a couple of pieces of paper under it and I light it, and it takes my 50-degree house to 85 degrees in 15 minutes, you're not going to convince me that oak burns hotter than pine. I don't think it does. I think pine burns much hotter, but pine burns hotter and cleaner for a much shorter period of time. If I don't pay attention to that stove in an hour, it's out. That doesn't happen with oak. Oak will maintain that heat for a much longer period of time. And I think that goes into the BTU discussion, where they create their argument around a volume of heat for a period of time. So an oak might create X amount of heat for 2 or 3 hours, pine might only burn for 20 minutes. So they say oak burns hotter. Well, it doesn't burn hotter. I don't believe that. I believe the pine burns hotter, but it burns hotter for a much shorter period of time. and it doesn't give you the volume of heat out of your heating source that you're going to get out of oak over a period of time. But what I want to do, as you can see behind me, I have my softwood pile over here and my hardwood pile over here. Now, in my hardwood pile, I've pretty much cut and split all my new stuff. Everything else in there is years old in slab wood. It's all seasoned at this point. So I'm getting into my seasoned wood, and that wood's going to go on the top, so I'll use it first. The other advantage to burning pine, it's actually a few fold, but the other advantage to burning pine is pine will season very, very quickly. In a couple of months in the summertime, it'll be bone dry, especially if you're cutting older stuff like I do sometimes. I'll split the outside off and only use the heartwood. And the heartwood is already, number one, it's already dry because the tree wasn't using that to transport water up the tree at that point when it was cut down. But also that wood will dry bone dry in a couple to a few months. So that makes it very, very attractive. The other thing about softwood is in the Northeast where I am, there is no market for it. You can't sell softwood firewood here. Not because it's a law, but because nobody wants to buy it. So it all ends up in the landfill. One thing that we do at Pirate Solutions Forestry here is that we take trees that are bound for the landfill and we cut them up into lumber for people to save them from going to the landfill. It's a very, very cheap option to us. And all of the waste we burn to keep our house warm in the wintertime, which is about a $6,000 advantage to us. So we throw away nothing. Everything either goes to the customer in the form of a board or a beam or a plank or a slab top or whatever, or it goes inside in the stove. And that's equally so in hardwoods. A lot of the hardwoods that we get from tree services, no mill will touch because they're yardwood. Well, we cut what we can cut, and what we can't cut into planks or usable for a customer, we use for firewood for the house. But it needs to be seasoned. So what I want to show you is, I'm going to show you my firewood pile, at least the beginning to it. I'm almost there. I'm ahead of it enough now to where I could still cut in the wintertime and be fine because I'm into all season stuff here. You know, a full bucket full will pretty much load up the inside of the house, and that'll last me like a week. So if I don't add any more to my pile, which is not going to be the case, I'm going to add a lot more to my pile in the next few weeks, especially because I'm slow now. But if I don't add any more to my pile, it gives me a little bit of a winter job to come out. When I get low in the house, I come out, 30 minutes, I can cut and split an entire bucket load. I bring it out front. I bring it in the house. I set it in my racks in the house around the wood stove, which I'm going to show you my setup. And that'll last me a week. Plus the wood stove takes the wet edge off of everything I bring in the house. So if it gets rained on, it doesn't really matter. It's dry in a couple of days with the way that I have it set up. So let's go ahead and take a look at my stuff. We're going to take a look up my chimney, and I'm going to show you what 10 years of burning pine and hardwood in my wood stove looks like in my chimney. I've never cleaned it, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is the beginning to my winter firewood. I'm trying to get a little bit ahead of it right now because we're dealing with the hottest months of the season. This is south facing, so it gets sun on it all day. As you can see right now, it's pretty much a mix of black oak and pitch pine and white pine. That's pretty much the mix right now. As I get closer to season, I will start splitting kindling. And I'm going to show you in a minute when we go in the house. I have a kindling rack that's about 6 feet tall. It's like 16 by 16 that I fill with pine all the way to the top, real small split pine, about this big around. And that's what I use to start my fires. But this is my main heating source for the winter so that I don't have to turn my heat on. Just wanted to show you the mix. This mix is going to stay consistent. I do have white oak out there. I've got ash out there. I've got some locust out there. That'll all end up in here because I'm starting to get into my season stuff, which will end up on the top of this. And then I'm going to have to come up with a secondary spot. I think I have an idea of where to put my secondary pile, which is why I've been telling you guys that I want to build a wood bunker. And a wood bunker that I'm going to put up here, I'll kind of give you guys a look over. I don't know if you can see behind, oh, the car's going by, right behind that tree is my campwood bin. And I want to put a wood bunker next to that and totally load it to the top with about 5 cords in it of a mix of hard and softwood for the winter time. So this is my basic setup, and you can see Danny sleeping on the floor. I don't know how the audio is going to be in here, so I'm just going to apologize for that for now. But I have my stove centrally located in my living room. I'll show you that from the outside of the house. This is a 5-bedroom farmhouse. If I keep all the doors open that are behind you, which go upstairs and into our bedroom behind you in the bathroom, this stove will heat this entire house. Now, it does have a blower, so when it reaches a certain temperature, it starts blowing around the inside structure and blows out of here. And that does force the heat very, very well. I could make it even more efficient if I put little fans in my doorways to blow into our bedroom, and pretty much if I leave that door open, all my heat ends up upstairs anyway. So I don't really need to worry about it going up. I need to worry about it going through the bottom here. But this is my kindling rack right here, which I guess is a little less than 6 feet tall, probably 5 feet tall. I load that up with small pine. If I start the stove with that, so let's just say a chunk about this big, that will heat this downstairs up to 85 degrees in 15 minutes. That's once that blower kicks on, it'll go right up to 85 down here, no matter what the temperature is outside. The only time that this house really struggles, where I really got to keep it going 24/7, is under, say, 25 degrees. So if we have high temperatures for the day, below freezing, and low temperatures are down in the single digits for an extended period of time, I pretty much have to burn that all the time. Other than that, with us being outside working all day, it's pretty much heating the place in the morning to take the edge off. And then when I come in the afternoon, I get it going and then leave it going until we go to bed, and I let it burn out at night, unless the temperatures are super, super cold. And then I'll stock it full at night, dog it down with seasoned wood, let it kind of keep the edge off at night. And then hopefully there's a few coals in there in the morning so I can throw some wood in it in the morning and get it going right away. Under the TV over here, it's flipped upside down right now as a little table, but that is a firewood rack that in the wintertime we flip that over and load it full of wood. I also load around the stove and behind the stove. So I have a pile of wood in front of the stove, a big pile of wood behind the stove, kindling in the rack, and that right there full of firewood all the way to the top. We used to stock our farmer's porch years ago, but what I find is that keeping the wood in here around the stove makes it so I don't have to worry about if it gets rained on or something like that, because the stove sucks the moisture out of it really, really quickly. So I can load the house with stuff. Let's say we got poured on last night. I could load the house with stuff out of my bin that got poured on, burn the stove, and have that dry in a couple of days, the entire rack. So that's what the inside of the house looks like. Again, this is a 5-bedroom farmhouse, 3,000 square feet, and that's our only heating source that we use for the wintertime in the Northeast. Okay, so this is my chimney right here, triple wall stainless steel, coming out from the old living room window with fire rock on it. I did just have to spray a bald-faced hornet's nest out of there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up there and I'm going to pull off my clean out. And you can see it's a task here to do it. I'm sure I'll have to beat it off. It hasn't been touched in forever. I have no idea what the inside of the chimney will look like, but we're going to find out right now. So I'm going to get up there. I'm going to take off the clean out and I'm going to show you what's in it. And this is after 10 years of burning with this setup. And hopefully we'll be able to shine a flashlight up in there and you'll be able to see up through the chimney and see what's inside it. Brought just a couple of tools with me. I'm not sure what I'm going to need. Hopefully I don't get bit by a hornet here. Just got to get it to start turning. Actually, let me see if I can turn it first before I start beating on it. Oh, yeah, I can. All right, so let's take this out. Oops, it's got water in it. Get some of this water out. That is all of the residue in the clean out. There's literally nothing in there. Let me put it down for a second. Show you what's in here. That is all the residue from the clean out. It's just basically ash. There's just nothing in it at all. You can just dump it out. So there is nothing in this. This is not creosote, guys. This is just ash. You can see me pushing it around. I could just clean this out real quick. Matter of fact, let's do that. Let's, since I have the hose on, let's hose this out. So just to show you that it's not creosote, I'm just going to hose this out quick. Hopefully without getting it all over myself. Just had to spray the hornets with this. Oh, make sure that you're watching me. So let's just spray this out. Guys, that's my clean out. After 10 years of burning pine, you can see the metal in there. You know, I'm not making this up. That's my clean out. All it was just loose ash in there, no creosote. Let's take a look up the chimney and let's see what it looks like. I'm going to take my gloves off and try to get you guys a decent view. Now, I'm not even going to look up in there. I'm just going to try and shine a light up in there and see if you guys could see up through it. And I can see there's nothing on the inside. See if you can see all the way to the top. You can see the light at the top. See if I can get some light up in there. You can see, hopefully, there's nothing in it. There's nothing on the walls. There is no creosote in my chimney. And I burn pine. Interesting. All right, let's put it back together so I can be done with this. For those of you who burn oak and clean your chimney every year, well, I just cleaned mine. Mine's clean. I burn pine and oak. Perfect. And I'm done. That's it. That's cleaning my chimney. And I burn pine. So in closing here, I hope you can see the volume of the house. There are 3 bedrooms upstairs. There's one all the way on the right over there. You're my left, your right. There's a bedroom next to it there. There's an attic there. And there's a bedroom on the front of the house across from those and a bathroom in between it. So I have the 3 bedrooms upstairs with a full attic that you can walk in. not counting the roof attic, because that's pretty much all just full of insulation and stuff. We have a bedroom that sits off the side right there. And then once upon a time, my wood shop in the front of the house downstairs, across from that lower section, that's our bedroom. Across from our bedroom in the lower part of the house, where my wood shop is, used to be a bedroom also, and they used to rent it out. So 5 bedrooms. You can see the volume of the house, 3,000 square feet. Heat the whole thing with that one little wood stove central on the bottom floor in the living room. I hope this, what I hope, guys, is that I hope that if you don't believe me, that you will go to the University of Georgia study and look at the, I think it was, I don't know whether they burned red pine or lodgepole pine, one of the two against the oak. But if you do a little bit of Googling, the University of Georgia, you'll be able to find the study. You'll be able to look at the results for yourself. What I'm telling you is that for 10 years, I burned pine in this house mixed with hardwoods. Some years, I burned more pine. Some years, I burned almost all pine when I didn't really have any hardwood. I don't need to buy it because I have enough waste from the sawmill to supply me for years. But this year, it's going to be a lot more hardwood. Hopefully, I need it because some winters we don't have a terrible winter. But rather than believing me, please look it up yourself. Please educate yourself. There is absolutely nothing wrong with burning pine in a fireplace or a wood stove. As a matter of fact, it's cleaner than burning oak. And it's much cleaner, much, much cleaner than burning wet oak. If you don't season your oak for 2 years, that's dangerous. My ex had her chimney. She has a similar setup to us with a big wood stove in the basement. She lives in the basement of an old schoolhouse, and it's all concrete down there. She has 4 flues going up through her chimney. I used to clean it every year with a brush. I would throw it off the roof to her. She would hook it up to a carabiner down the bottom. I would rip it up through the chimney. After we split up, this was 10 years ago when I met Kate. After we split up, a couple of years later, she called me up and said, I can't get my wood stove going and it's blowing smoke in the house. And I went over there. Her chimney, and all she burns is oak, okay? She gets it from a guy down in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, off a farm. All she burns is oak. Her chimney was so blocked that I couldn't break the blockage. Dropping a window weight on a rope, because it's 50 feet high, getting up on the roof and dropping a window weight down into the blockage just to try to break it free so I could clean it for her. I couldn't get the window weight to drop through the blockage. That's how bad it was. It was right where her pipe came into the flue of the chimney. It was clogged solid. She was a total candidate for burning her house down. And she had to have it professionally cleaned. It took 3 days to clean her chimney. It was a big deal and it cost her a lot of money. And all she burns is oak. I burn everything. My chimney looks like that. So hopefully that'll be enough for you guys. Thanks for coming along for the ride. We always appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe, share this video. You need to get it out so that people won't be afraid to burn pine in their fireplace. And we can save some of these great trees from ending up in the landfill, bucked up into logs and tilled in with compost. So if you need anything from Norwood, please use my Norwood affiliate link that's in the description. All you have to do is copy and paste it to your browser. Other than that, I just try to give you the best information I can, guys. But for now, Pirate Solutions out.